Hey you guys, welcome to the first day of geometry. We're going to be starting out with some definitions today. Start off pretty light. All right, so for Unit 1, Lesson 1, we're starting with the definition of a point. So a point is a location, okay? So when we talk about a point or a location, it has no size, okay, and shape. So let me write that down. It has no shape or size. Okay, it's just the location of the point. So here we have a point A, and anytime you name a point, we are going to be using a capital letter. Okay, so you would say for this example, this is point A, capital A. All right, so if we go down to our next vocabulary word, we have a line, and a line is made up of points. Okay. We don't have any points, we don't have a line. In this case, we can see point X and point Y. Once you lay those 2 points, we have the ability to put a line through it. Okay, so a minimum for our line is 2 points. We need at least 2 points to make a line. A line has no thickness or width. Kind of that same idea of the point, right? It has no shape or size. In this case, it has no thickness or width. A line is named by any 2 points that are on that line. So in this case, we have line X and Y. So the way you would write that for this example would be line X, Y. You can also use it with the script letter. So in this case, they gave us a N, and we could name it line N. And I think the easiest way to write it is by writing the letters and the symbol for line. So in this case, this is our symbol for line. It looks just like a line, but what's important to have is these 2 arrows on the side. And that's to tell us that this line never ends, right? If we have something that looks like this, there's an ending to that line, okay? But in this case, this would be the symbol for array. This would be the symbol for a segment. But in this case, because this is a line, we would use the symbol for a line, which is what you can see right here. Collinear points are points that lie on the same line. That makes sense because co means together, linear means line, so together on the line. In this case, we would say that X and Y are collinear. But when it comes to non-collinear points, it's a point that does not lie on the same line. And this is important. You at least need 3 points, right? Because if I have a point right here and a point right here and I only have 2, well, I can make a line, okay? But in order for something to be non-collinear, it needs to have 3 points. So we have a point right here, a point right here, and one right here. There's no way we can connect these to make a straight line. They would make some type of shape, or in the next case, we'll be looking at a plane, which is what, and we'll get there. So right here, if you want to make an example on your paper, you can put a point right here and call it point A and say that A is non-collinear. Let's move on to plane. Scroll down. So a plane is a flat surface. Okay. Think about like a table or a piece of paper. It's flat, okay? But the difference is, we'll talk about that in a second, but a plane needs 3 points, okay? In this case, we see K, J, and L. We have 3 points, but what's important about those 3 points is that they're non-collinear, okay? So any three non-collinear points make a plane. And a plane extends indefinitely in all directions. The best plane that can describe that would be the coordinate plane. And you guys are familiar with that from Algebra 1. All right, when we have our um, sorry, our plane here, right? We know that the coordinate plane, we know that even though there's 2 points here, this technically goes on and on forever. So 1, 2, 3, all the way to infinity, to your right and to your left, okay, and up and down. So even though we can't see the full graph in this case, we know that it goes on and on forever. That is called a coordinate plane. So that's an example of how this plane works. Now, in this case, it looks like this plane ends at these lines, right? But they do not. This is just to kind of give you an idea that these 3 points lie on the same plane, but technically this goes on and on forever. Okay, so we can name a plane by 3 non-collinear points, similar to how we named our line, but instead we're going to use the word plane. So this would be plane K, J, L, or you can use a capital script letter. Oh, sorry, uppercase script letter. And in this case, you can say plain P, right? Because they give us this script letter over here. It doesn't have a point next to it, so we know it's not a point, right? We know that this is the name of the plane. Let's see if I can erase that. Okay. Coplanar points are points that lie on the same plane, which makes sense. These 3 points are coplanar because they are on the same plane. But it was the moment I put a point out here and say that this is M, well, this point is non-coplanar, right? It doesn't lie on this plane. And right here it says it must be at least 4 points, all right? Because we know that a plane needs 3. So in order for something to not be on the plane, you have to have a fourth. Now you can have 5, 6, 7, or 8, that's fine, but the minimum for a non-coplanar point is to have 4 points, okay? And this would be an example. All right, last bullet here, we have intersecting lines. So 2 lines that intersect are always going to intersect at a point. Right, that makes sense because if I draw a line right here and a line right here, right in the middle, they're intersecting at that point. In this case, you can see that they give us a picture of line R and line S, and they're intersecting at P. So 2 planes that intersect are always going to intersect on a line. It's a little bit different, right? So we have this plane here, L, and the plane M that's horizontal to that. And we can see that because they're flat surfaces, those flat surfaces are going to create a line, okay, going down the middle. So in this case, so let's go ahead and write our word for a definition. So in this case, we could say that plane L, not plan, plane L intersects plane M on M on line K. Okay, and the same thing can be set up here. Line R intersects line S point